Yeah. Now, talk animated like Manny.
You gotta talk like this, like this, like this.
You could smack him.
Like yeah, like you shouldn't. You know how they say like, oh, you should work in the fast food industry and retail, so like that you won't be a dick. But it's like you should also try to make something. Try going to the store and get all the supplies that you need and try to make it. And then you tell me why we charge what we charge. Because I feel like a lot of people don't know, like having to go out and do this and having to go out and do that and getting all these things. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm $200 in grabbing all the supplies and you want me to make something for $50.
Yeah, because a false price has been kind of set by disposable fashion and shops like Ross and stuff like that, people think a dress should be worth this or a shirt should be worth that.
Yeah.
And it's just not a realistic price. It's only a realistic price if you're willing to just block out everything that it takes to really make it that cheap.
Yeah, and I would like to think I'm not a sweatshop, but then I can't say that for sure I'm not because I've sweated in the shop.
It's freezing now. But yeah,
it's freezing now. Summer. But I also think that in not like just anyone in general, right? Like photographers or, because it's like I think I've done it like a few times where I'm like, oh, well, I shouldn't like that's a lot, right? But it's like I'm not gonna tell that to like whoever's trying to like make money off like their skill. Exactly. Because it's like you make it look easy. Yeah, you do make it look easy, but it's like how long did it take you to get where you made it look easy?
Yeah, for some people it's decades.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I guess it needed to be said. Just to clear the air.
And when you say quote unquote friends, do you include yourself in that?
I include myself because you know what? I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, okay. And you know what? I do have clients that have always made me feel like they appreciate me and that, it's like, it's such an awesome experience working with them and creating and like, collaborating on things where I'm like, you know what? Like, you're the fucking shit. Like this whole like experience has been enjoyable. Like you fucking tag me in all your awesome pics. Like all that, like it makes a huge difference than just going in there and being like, oh, and then just like no one wants to feel like they're a tool, and I feel like I offer more than just like sitting behind a sewing machine and like doing that kind of stuff. And it's like appreciating someone for what they're able to do,
100%. Yeah, but pricing in general, it's really been an evolution over the years, right? Because, I mean, anybody who starts up a business in the beginning, you're kind of just wondering, do you just undercut or do you price it high or where do you price it and you're nervous and you're like, I just have to build up a clientele.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it started. And then it just seems like every year from then you've kind of had to adjust.
Yeah, you have to adjust because obviously like rent also goes up. So it's like we're fortunate enough to like sign like a 5-year lease, but at the same time, it's like in our lease, it does say like, oh, hey, you're going to have the rent increase of this percentage. So it's only fair for you to, not drastically like raise your prices, but it's like you should be able to obviously like accommodate for, like all those kind of things where it's like people don't see that, right? Because it's like you're not obviously going to be like transparent where you're like, hey, check out like my rent agreement. Things like that. But it's like I feel like you should be, and I don't know, like sometimes I feel like it's one of those things where if you like going back to like that one time, remember when I was like, we need to ride around in that little like bicycle thing all over downtown, and you remember when we took that ride on the pedicab?
Oh my god, the complete scam. Yes.
No, it was not a scam.
Oh, it felt like one at the end.
All right. So you are the kind of person where it's like you want to do something and then you'll figure out the price after. I am not. I want to know if I'm able to afford something and if I want to give that value to whatever I'm going to purchase, right? Because it's like some people value $120 sneakers. I don't. I'm not going to spend $120. I'm going to stay within my budget, right? Or what I think that shoes should cost.
Yeah.
You don't. You're like, hey, let's take this ride thing. And so I feel like if people don't want to be surprised, they should ask.
Well, with a lot of your custom projects and stuff like that, I know the price fluctuates throughout it. You don't have like an accurate price right till the end. But do you quote a price beforehand, or is it like a window like between this number and this number, or like how do you do that with pricing?
So basically, like I try to like I guess like calculate how many hours I'm going to be working on something and like the fabric, right? Because it's like if the fabric that we're going to be working with is going to be way more difficult to work with and like how you want for the look to be, and then you're not providing the correct fabric, and how, you know, all that stuff, it plays such a huge role in like the estimating of like something. Because it's like you could say, yeah, I want like a tank top made out of spandex, and then you could say, hey, I want a tank top made out of silk. So it's like, how do you know that these two different fabrics are totally different and they're going to fit totally different, and then you want for both of them to be priced the same? So it's like, that's not going to happen, you know?
But do you give somebody like an estimated price?
Yeah, we usually do like an estimated price, and then we're like, hey, this is the estimate for that. Now we're trying to get people to where it's like they have to provide everything.
Well, like fabric and everything like that.
Like
basically, you know, because they're picking out the fabric, right? Or they kind of have the idea for what they want it usually to look like if they're doing a custom design. So in the past, you actually kind of used to go out and get fabric. You used to go to Joann's and everywhere.
And that was like so that's a nightmare, because it's like you show up and you're like, these are some samples. And then they're like, no. And then you're like, okay, now we have to go and get another sample.
And that's just so much time.
That's an hour. So it's like, okay, well, my pricing for an hour is like $80 to $100 an hour. So it's like, for me to like spend that much time like going out and losing on that, I don't want to do that.
Doesn't make sense. You
know, so and you're not going to want to just, so it's like, if you know what kind of fabric that you want, like, it makes it easy. And a lot of people don't understand like fabrics and all that kind of stuff. We're going to help you with that, but it takes a long time for you to like sit there and be like, yes.
Yeah, but what if somebody goes to like a Joann's or a fabric place like that and just hits you up on FaceTime while they're there? Does that usually solve the issue?
So you're very like online shopping, and I am very not. And so
Claudia,
seeing something,
you need to get with the program.
No, seeing something in a picture is totally different than seeing something where you could touch it, where you could feel it. And we're talking about like something where it's like you're gonna wear, and what are you gonna do when you're gonna be wearing it? So then it becomes very difficult for me to be like, oh, that fabric right there, yes. And so it's hard, you know, so because it's like we make suggestions where it's like, what are you going to use this for? And like, do you have any kind of restrictions? We usually like more restrictions, because it's like, then we could kind of like box it in, right? So I usually ask them, what do you need this for? And we've had incidents where people are like, why do you need to know that? And then I'm like, I don't know. I just would like to make some kind of like suggestions, because it's like I get really into the projects. And so this lady, she came in one time, and I was like, wanted a full length like lace bodysuit, like length to ankle, like head to toe lace thing. Nice. And I was like, what are you gonna do with that? Making so I can make some suggestions, not because it's like, you know. And she's like, I want to have like a romantic night with my husband. And I was like, oh, well, let's make a hole right here, and then we'll make a thing here, you know? And so she's like, but she was very like...
Was she receptive to your suggestion?
She was, well, in the beginning, she was like, she didn't want to tell me why she was getting this thing made. She was just kind of like, but then at the same time, it's like, I'm very non-judgmental when you come in with things, because it's like, who the fuck am I? You know? I just want to know, because it's like, I want to make recommendations. If you're not coming to me to make recommendations, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, but usually, do you wait for somebody to kind of tell you? Or
no,
I use the crowbar and you just kind of pry it.
I pry.
Oh my goodness!
But it's like, why? It's like, then go to someone that's gonna be a tool. You know, because it's like, why go somewhere where they could make it better and you don't want to?
So you're saying that's what differentiates you from maybe other just straight up tailors or places or like that you can add your vision to it or add your advice. They come to basically also get some direction from you.
Well, I will say that tailoring and custom sewing is totally different. So we do like a wide range of things that we do, right? The services that we offer, which is tailoring, custom sewing, like costumes, sewing lessons, stuff like that, right? Tailoring is only tailoring. So a lot of people that know how to tailor, they don't know how to create the whole entire thing. My mom, she's more like, I would rather create the whole entire thing than tailor something, because my mom didn't go to school for tailoring. Mm-hmm. She went to school for basically like pattern making and like clothing design and stuff like that. So she's all about like, hell no, that seems complicated as hell. I don't want to do that. And to me, I'm like, what? But I basically got into the tailoring because remember when I was like in high school and I was like, my mom didn't have a lot of money. So we would go to the Salvation Army and like, I would just buy stuff and like redo the whole entire thing. And I just always liked to have like that original, like creative style. And I knew how to sew. So,
but also when I knew you at SCOE, when I had first met you, you always had the side hustle of everybody would always drop off their clothes with you.
Yeah, and I would
to do all kinds of just basic alterations and stuff like that. But it was a nice little side hustle. The money added up.
I've had side hustles since I was in elementary school. I've seriously had side hustles.
What was your first side hustle?
Let me see. Well, okay, so all right, first side hustle. One of them at least. I used to go to this church, when I was a kid, and we became Christians, right? And so I was like, I had gone to summer school, and then summer school wasn't like what I thought it was gonna be, because usually summer school was like fun, and you did like just art projects all the time, and I loved that, Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I signed up for summer school, and it was like, no, you're gonna learn shit. And I obviously enjoy learning, but I wanted to do it in more of a creative way during summer school. So it didn't end up being like what I wanted it to be. So I dropped out of fucking summer school.
Oh, wow. Did you tell your parents?
Yeah, like they knew. And so my, I think I was like around 8 or 9 years old. And on the way home, that's where the church was, right? And so I saw this car that was very familiar, which was the secretary for the church. Uh-huh. Okay. And I was like, oh, Betty's there. I'm going to say hello. Cause I was like a very sweet kid, Yeah. And I also knew that she was older and I could help her. So I go in there and I was like, hey, Betty, do you need help here in the church? Because you're the secretary and you're working here every day. Like, obviously I wasn't going to freaking tell her to pay me like a lot, but I wasn't actually expecting to get paid. I just, I've always wanted to be busy, right? Uh-huh. So she's like, I actually do need help in the secretary's office. And so it was just her. She was like this older lady, and she would make me fold like the little like the what do you call that thing when you go to church and they're like, this is what we're going to do at 10 o'clock. And then at 10:15, we're going to do the agendas the itinerary. Yeah. So, I had this thing that I had to fold every Friday and then go into like the, what do you call it? Like the actual church where the service would be held and like put them like in like the specific place and people would pick them up. Yeah. And I just thought that was like every time that I had to like put that there on Fridays, because it was empty, there was no one there. So every Friday I would have to go and like stack them up on this table like in front of the entrance of the church, and I always thought that was creepy. I had a creepy feeling about it.
I gotta rewind though. Yeah. So technically you're saying that's your side hustle?
That was my first ever side hustle.
But that wasn't really any, cash involved. It was the church,
Oh no,
right?
She did. Okay, so towards paid? Like the end of the week, she would give me like $1 or $2, right? And she would also give me a piece of candy. And I think I enjoyed the candy more than the $1, because with the $1 I was like, okay, cool. But then I feel like what I ended up doing is like I just kind of saved up my dollars, and then I was like, I'm gonna buy some inventory and charge all these neighborhood kids for some candy.
Oh, so you bought a shitload of candy?
I bought a shitload of candy, Mexican candy, right? And I had this little, Liz was telling me, she was reminding me about this. I had like this little green box, and it had like it's just like a really cool like green box, and I wrote like dubalines 25 cents, like chicles 10 cents, like, you know, I broke it down. I remember being in this in the San Fernando Mall, right, and being in this little store and just like doing math, like doing full on fucking math in a piece of paper and being like, if I bought this bag of candy at $2.75 and there's 25 pieces of candy and I'm charging freaking 10 cents each, how much money am I going to make and what will be my profit? And I had it all down.
Wow.
And it was fucking awesome. And I was like, I mean, my parents had 6 kids. So for me, it was like, if I want money, like I'm going to figure out how to make money
for yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I always like to, you know, I don't know, to tell you the truth, like now that I think about it, I never really was like, because I mean at like 8 or 9, what the fuck are you gonna do with money?
Well, you can buy more candy.
Yeah, but it's like
you can basically have enough candy where you're eating for free.
Yeah, but then that explains fucking why I got fucked up teeth now. There you go. So don't eat a lot of candy. No, yeah. Just do it a little by little. But exactly. Yeah. So that was one of my first side hustles, but yeah.
Awesome. So from your first side hustle now to your newest hustle.
Yeah.
What is your newest hustle? Let us know. Come on, let us have a peek behind the curtain.
All right. So some of you do know and some of you don't know. But I've always wanted to do, like, people come in here all the time, and you know, when I was doing more prototypes, people were like, they're like, oh, you sew, how come you don't do your own thing? And I was just kind of like, I was like, I know what it takes to do your own thing.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, I think I'm okay. And we all know that clothing lines don't survive past a specific time. And it's like everyone's trying to like outdo this person and that person. But clothes is it's all fundamentals, right? Like a shirt could be turned into a sweater. A sweater could then turn into a coat. So it's all this kind of stuff, right? Where you're just kind of like, there's no freaking way in hell that there could ever be originality. Because everything is basically the same, like, cut and same, you know, all that kind of thing. Yeah. So for me, I was just kind of like, I don't want to deal with that. Like you know, but then over time, you know, and obviously owning the shop and just having like having that like feeling of like, I need to do something where like sewing makes me so happy. But what if I sewed something for myself? And how would that make me feel? You know, and I did it and I was like, I need to fucking do this. Because I felt like I've always needed to have some kind of like thing where it's like I'm doing it and I get to control every single little thing about it. And so far it's been like one of the most magical things that I've been working on, and it really makes me feel alive, you know? And I think as an artist and just someone as a creative, being able to do it and to do something that you're putting all your heart and like your soul and like just being like, oh, you're like, it feels like love when you first have it and you're like, oh my God, trust me, I still feel the same way as the first day that I met you. No. Okay. So
good to know.
But it's like one of those things, you know, where you end up falling in love with the project and you're like, this makes me feel so good. So
yeah, and it's from the beginning to the end, right? It's your concept.
The beginning to the end, and you basically get to, the scary part is obviously like going in there and being like, this is what I made and what do you think about it? And I'm all about constructive criticism, and I love when people tell me like, well, you know, and they tell me their opinion about it.
It's incredibly important.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like just not losing, like, you know, like I don't want to lose the design part about it.
It's balancing it out. Yeah.
You know,
just at least listening to the advice and kind of filtering it through and seeing if you want to implement it or not. The decision is totally yours.
So with that being said, I am starting my kids line that I've always wanted to start.
Wow.
And you know, it's just something that I'm very excited about, and everything that I've been working on is made from vintage fabrics, like original vintage fabrics. And I'm pairing a lot of, I like, I guess I like things that have there's a lot into it, right? That has a lot of content, and I like a lot of patterns mixed together. And I love, I don't like matchy. I've never liked matchy. And I felt like the kids line basically was inspired by, obviously, Ice. It's like, she's my daughter. I've always wanted her to dress a specific kind of way because, we couldn't ever find stuff that was something that I liked,
And you made all like for her school pictures. Usually every year you've kind of made her like a custom outfit.
Yeah. I don't think she likes it that much anymore. Because she's just kind of like, can't we go to Target and get a dress? And
kids never appreciate it in the moment. But years later, she definitely will.
Yeah. Well, she's asked me, she's like, is there any way that like you could make my prom dress when I get older? And obviously it's like one of those things where you're like, yeah, of course, and you're probably going to be having the best prom dress.
Oh, but, most definitely.
Yeah, it was definitely inspired behind her and like wanting to have like a specific like style that I have. And I decided to run with it, and I haven't thought of a name. I'm still in the process of like trying to brainstorm with like the name and like what I want it to be and like, all that kind of stuff. I haven't thought about that. I'm just basically creating stuff and allowing for that to be like my happy place where it's like I sit there and I have a good time with it and I match things and I,
And the cool thing is you get reaction from actual people just walking in to the studio, either people that made an appointment or during the art crawl, because you have the studio now where you can showcase a lot of this original work. You can just basically you can create it from scratch, just hang it up and kind of see how people feel about it when they walk in and just get an honest answer and just kind of, that's the incredible part about having the studio there where people can kind of walk by and then you can just present them this original work. I think that's the exciting part. Yeah.
And also, it's a little, it's one of those things where you're like, you put so much heart and soul and like, you're like all about it, and then you have to put it out, and then you don't know how people are going to react to it, and then you're just kind of like, oh shit, hopefully people like it, hopefully people, because it's like
tough. But with any kind of art or anything like that, it's hard to know, because sometimes people love it right away, and then some of the greatest things people love like 3 years down the line. So you never know. With that kind of thing, you hear stories about stuff that we think is classics now that when it was actually released to the public, they just were not ready for it right away.
Wasn't that like Clockwork Orange?
Well, a lot of things like that. Yeah, a lot of films or even clothing. A lot of stuff like that gets appreciated way after, just because the person that's putting it out, is trying something a little new. Yeah. It's not being spoon-fed. It's not anything like that. So you can't always expect things to catch on right away, but that shouldn't stop you from at least being bold.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I feel like, obviously, I haven't done that in a long time, and before that's what I started. It's like I was just making every day like 2 tote bags every day, and I was like, if you're gonna fucking work for someone else, you better work on your shit, and I just stockpiled stuff, and I remember there was one show that really catapulted like my whole entire thing. And I seriously, like, I pray, like, I have no, it's like, I'm not religious, but I definitely like pray, and I'm like, hey, so I was in my car, and I remember at the time, I think I drove like a crappy ass neon that ended up leaking gas or something. And so what happened is I was like in this car, and I was like, dear God, if you don't want me to do this, that's totally cool. But if you want me to do this, make it a great day. And it was like, hell fucking yeah.
Oh, the whole day?
Oh my God, it was like amazing. It was amazing. And I remember, my mom a couple of days before was like, hey, because, my dad, he's always been in the picture, but it wasn't like, I feel like my mom was mainly like a single parent for a long time because he was like very machismo, where he's like, I just work. I don't think he even provided like financially or anything. But I remember my mom was like, taxes are coming up for the house, and I have to figure out how to pay taxes, you know, because it's like if you own a property, you have to pay taxes or whatever. Wow. And so she was like, I need to figure out how to make money. And I remember, like, you know, just kind of like sitting in the car and being like, make this a good day if it's going to be like, if it's meant to be, you know. And all of a sudden, I was like, you know, I remember being in my car and being like so giddy and being like, and just that whole entire moment was like, I'm going to give this money to my mom, because like, what am I going to do with $400 and something dollars? You know, I think I made $460 that day. Oh, wow. And I was like, I fucking thought I was like fucking balling, you know? I was like, damn, this is what my check always looks like. And I made it in one day, you know? Yeah. And so I was like all like excited, and I was like, damn, I'm the fucking shit, you know? And then I was like, what am I going to do with $460? Like, what was I going to do? Like, I had to have been like at least like 22. You know, and
most 22-year-olds would think that, hey, you know, this is a few nights of drinks and everything like that.
Yeah, but
did your mom appreciate it? Did it help her?
Oh yeah, she was. You know, I got home and like I was so excited to get home because I was like, dude, like I need to get home. I want to give this to my mom, you know. And so the whole entire way, I was like, the whole entire like drive home, I was like, hell yeah, like this is like so good. And you know, and I couldn't think of anything else I could do with it, you know. Like I wasn't thinking like, because that did come into my mind where I was like, if I keep this, it's gonna go to like useless shit. I live in that house, like I should be able to like, you know, put in for that, you know, like I got 5 on it
exactly,
you know. But yeah, she was like very happy, and she, you know, she was just kind of like, oh crap. And I guess that was like a sign. And I was like, I'm going to do this. Yeah, right. But, you know, it was cool. I still remember that. And it was an awesome night. And I remember, you know, making these totes and just being like, each tote is so original, and it's so like, you know, and it's reversible, and there's 3 pockets, and like they were all the same exact shape and size and everything, but every single one of them was like original. And I remember just thinking like, I'm gonna make these because I love making them and I enjoyed it, and it was like such a good time, and like the energy behind it was like beautiful. And I feel like I feel the same way. Exactly. And it's almost like this decade is getting back to that. Yeah. It kind of strayed away this last decade because of just necessities of running a business. It's like you have to go with where the sales are and everything like that. And a lot of if it's tailoring or if it's custom work for other clients, then that's what it had to be. Yeah. But now if we figured out a way, right, where there's more time management and efficiency and everything like that, it leaves time for you to just have this feeling again. Like, like you had in the beginning. Like when I first met you, like I said, you were slanging freaking tote bags in the downstairs parking lot out of your trunk. Yeah. You know? So you have to have, your studio should be filled with stuff, original stuff that you created that started inside your own little tiny brain. Yeah. It's actually a big brain. Yeah. Because it retains a lot of information. You know what I meant. But you know what? It's very difficult too, because it's like a lot of the times I think I'm like, oh my God, I want to also make this, and I also want to make that, and I also, you know, it's like if you got into my brain, you would just be like, what the it's almost like you need to be reined in a little bit. Yeah. So I've gotten like so many like people where they're like, let's collaborate on this thing or whatever, and I'm like, because you know, I've told people about the kids thing, and I'm like, just give me time. I'm not saying no, just give me time, because I need to really like focus on what I have to do as far as like this, you know. And I feel like San Diego, like moving out here to be with you, you know, was like one of the best like things that I could have ever done, because it forced me to be away, and it forced me to be like, hey, I have no friends. What am I going to do all day? And all I did was like really just practice and got better and better and better. And I feel like distractions are everywhere, you know. We carry around distractions. They're called phones. Yeah. You check it first thing in the morning. I know, and it's kind of, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know,
but
it's just necessary evil.
yeah. And sometimes you wake up and there's, text messages that you're just kind of like, oh God, all right, let's try to, it's like you don't want that to be like the first thing that you have to like see in the morning of like, okay, here's this text message and all right, let's work on that and let's do this and let's,
I hear stories of people where they give their kind of morning routine and they say they give like that first hour kind of away from the cell phone. And I kind of hope to one day get there. I'm nowhere near that now, but it sounds like a great kind of fantasy to me. But there's so much that we've put on our phone. There's so much that is it's just been part of our life that it takes a lot, at least for me, which I don't know what that says about me, to go without it for that amount of time. And it creates so much anxiety because you're like, oh my God, did I miss this for work, or did I miss somebody tried to contact me, or was it an emergency? You know, and it's all probably total bullshit, but it's just, because we obviously, me and you, we've lived before phones, so we should be able to exist without them, but it's just, it gets a little complicated.
Well, I feel like there's so many forms of being able to get in contact with me, right? Email, text message, a call, and so for me, I'm like, all right, if I missed a phone call, you could always text me or you could always email me. And to me, it's one of those things where it's like my voicemail says that specifically, and it's just kind of like creating like that anxiety that doesn't need to be there. So for me, I'm like, all right, I missed a phone call, all right, there's instructions on what to do if that happens, right? So it's like I just don't, like, I'm not gonna like create like this false like narrative in my mind to where it's like then I can't work, or I can't, or oh my God, what if they're it's like I'm not gonna allow for like my brain to do that, because it's like, what is that gonna do for anyone?
Yeah, but if somebody does call, say, your business line, and they don't get an answer, maybe they have a question, important question, this and that, their first thought is not necessarily to text you.
I know.
If that happens. So it's like, that's why with a business line, you kind of want to always make sure you're picking up the phone and everything like that.
Yeah,
you
want
to make sure you're not missing any questions, and because it is a business.
Yeah.
So you want to provide customer service in that way.
Yeah, but that's why my voicemail says, hey, you have reached me and you missed me, and I might be with the client, or I might, for whatever reason, I missed that call. If you would like to leave a text message, we actually appreciate that. Definitely. So then people have that option, because it's like, I don't like to call anyone. I would rather I would rather just send you a message and be like, hey, I just, there's certain things where I'm like, hey, I think we should talk on the phone or whatever. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Like, I just like to be like, hey, this is whatever, and you could come and pick up your stuff or whatever. But I don't call, because it's like, I don't know. I let people know, hey, you know what? When your stuff is ready, I will send you a message, and they're totally fine with it. And I just don't feel like I need, it's like trying to be like efficient, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you get me on the phone, I'm going to fucking talk forever. So I don't want to get on the phone, because I know myself.
Exactly. Okay.
So, yeah.
I get that.
But, yeah. Other than that, it's like I don't know. Like, I feel like I try my best to give everyone the best customer service. So if someone is at my shop and they schedule an appointment and our appointment slots are 30 minutes, I want to give them that attention. So if someone calls, I don't want to answer, because it's like, I don't know how sometimes I have clients that drive from Orange County. Sometimes I have clients that drive from Poway. Sometimes I have clients that walked from down the street.
Yeah, that makes sense. They don't want their appointment interrupted in any way.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like, you just don't know, and it's like, I'm the only one there at the shop, and, I like having it like that, and it works.
So anyone listening, Claudia,
it works.
If you want to get in touch with her, text
me.
her. Yep, 100%.
Give me a text.
If you call, you're gonna get that same long ass voicemail.
Oh
so
my God.
just text.
Most
me.
of the time I do answer, but when I don't, it's like, it's obviously not because I'm trying to ignore you. It's more because it's like I have someone there, and I really appreciate human interaction and being able to see someone and see their facial expressions and sometimes handshakes or hugs. Speaking
of that,
I like
Claudia,
that. Yeah.
So I know we talked about the art crawl last time and kind of the anxiety that you have surrounding that and stuff like that. But I know we have another art crawl coming up right before Valentine's Day in February.
Yeah.
And then there is going to be some, like we talked about earlier, the kids line, some Loka original stuff that you'll have up there. But how are you envisioning the retail space up front? Because that seems to be like, when you walk into the studio, it's very long, right? And like halfway through, you have her sewing machine, and basically past that, it's kind of just project she's working on, cutting table, this and that.
Well, it's like, what people have to understand is that, like, we're not, like, I guess like a fourth of our studio is for retail, right?
Yeah.
So most of the studio is not for retail. It's an actual working studio. So we like to, like, we have mostly what we do is, like, we do tailoring, and then we do custom, and we're trying to obviously create more of a retail space to obviously, for people to be able to come in and kind of like check that out. But at the time, we're trying to still figure that out. We're trying to be like, well, what are we going to sell? What are we going to, all that kind of stuff is very important, because it's like, we can't just slap stuff around, because we always do that, right?
Yeah, and how
we wanted to
set
it up.
Yeah, just having some kind of thought, because usually what we've done in the past, if we've just done stuff spontaneously and then constantly adjusted after that till we got it right. And it's just not, we usually get it right at the end, but it's just definitely not the most efficient way to go.
No.
Now we try to brainstorm a little bit ahead of time. We kind of get together, we collaborate, talk about it, and then execute it.
Yeah.
So right now we're just kind of in the middle of that, and just kind of even really just in the brainstorming part, just trying to figure out how to make best use of that front area.
Yeah.
Especially during the art crawl, because we've been through enough of them where we kind of see how the flow is and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's just about kind of setting that up and just trying a little bit better this time to plan ahead.
Yeah. Well, it all depends on, like, what we want to be. Because I feel like one of the things that the issues that we're constantly having is, like, well, what are we going to sell there? Right? So it's like, we're basically getting ready to, like, do this kids line. And so the whole kids line is basically like one of one. So it's not like if it's like we have like 3 of these and 2 of these. So it's all one of one. So it makes it very difficult to just be like, for us to mass produce them. Right? So that's where we want originality, but at the same time, we don't want, we want something to where it's like, hey, this is like specifically like you, this calls you. Like, I've never liked the idea of looking like someone else or having like the same outfit as someone else. Like, I think that's like a nightmare, because then I feel like I'm on one of those like magazines, like Who Wore It Better? And I'll usually end up losing.
But then it's also impossible to make a dress that's perfectly fit for someone you haven't even met yet.
No, yeah.
So the cool thing, I think, is that what we talked about offering sometimes, if that somebody does buy a Loka original, anything like that, you'll kind of make sure after that it kind of fits them in the right way. Say they get a shirt or anything like that, and you made it in, right now you have an awesome Rambo shirt that you just made.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, well done shirt. And then when I tried it on, the sleeves were a little long, a little wide.
Yeah.
So you quickly kind of fix them, and now they look perfect on me. And I think anybody coming in and buying an original shirt or something like that, that is such an awesome perk to be able to have it fitted to you instantly right there in the studio when you buy the product. I always thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, but I feel like then that's creating value, right? So it's like, then you should be able to understand that that's why the product is like where the price point needs to be. Because it's like, I can't like be like, oh, I'm selling this shirt that I've made and it took me like 3 hours or an hour or 2 or whatever, and you want it for $60, and I'm going to also tailor it to you, and you're not going to pay any extra. So it's like, I'm sorry, but that's impossible. I'm not China. I'm not made in China. This is made here in the US, and it's like, and it's a skill, you know? So it's like, it's very difficult for you to be able to have people understand that.
Yeah, it's even me that has trouble sometimes understanding it.
So that's why for me, like, that's what I'm saying, like, it's like I've had a fast food job. I've had a retail job, you know, and I feel like people should have a retail job, a fast food job, and try to make something. And then you'll have respect for craftsmen, you know, people that they do that stuff for a living, you know, because it's very difficult for you to try to negotiate with someone that creates for a living or is an artist. And I think that that's very rude. So it's just things that...
What's rude? So just basically negotiating. So if they... So you're saying if you set a price, or any artist sets a price on something, if you went up to them and just said, you know, lowball them or try to negotiate, you're saying personally you'd find that a little offensive.
Yes. And I would never do that. And I will say... I would say that, you know, I've came across people and then they're like, oh, it's this much for this. And then I'm like, all right. If I could afford it, I would buy it. If I can't afford it, like, I'm not going to tell them like that's too expensive. Good for you if you're able to charge what you're able to charge, but it's not my place to be like, that's too expensive for me. And I mean, I guess I should just hustle a little harder so I could afford that. Yeah. But other than that, I don't think that it's, I think it's rude that like someone would say that it's expensive or whatever, you know. It's like, just appreciate, like, you know, it's like there's the whole story behind that, you know. It's like you're buying something and, you know, like I gave my girlfriend some gifts that were made by someone like in the neighborhood, and I was just kind of like, I love being able to tell stories through like gifts, you know. And they were very excited about that. So, you know, I would rather do that, buy something that like has a story, than like ordering some bullshit on Amazon that has no fucking story.
Agreed. And, you know, pricing, like I said in the beginning, it's just like a constant learning curve.
It's hard.
You know, because I think there's also a sweet spot too. It's like, you know, I understand what you say, that you should never question an artist's price, but, you know, there's some internal questioning where I feel like sometimes if I can see when I look at something that it's priced so extremely high, like I'm talking about just way over what their peers are charging.
Yeah.
You know, then that's a different story. So it's like, I think that there has to be a right pocket of pricing when it comes to a product, you know, and that like goes ahead to us maybe thinking ahead and doing research and stuff like that. When we include more of that stuff, I think when you become educated about stuff, it becomes less anxious inducing and less scary. You know, because I think that we start becoming more confident in our decisions when we kind of know what the whole market is charging and everything like that, and making sure we're right there, and that making sure that you're valued as well. Because I think for a long time, you know, you were learning, but you were learning to also value yourself and value your skills, because it wasn't always there in the beginning. No.
And I also feel like, you know, I'm not like a greedy kind of person where it's like, hey, you can't do it and I can, so I should be able to charge you whatever the hell I want. And I'm not like that. Like, I actually like to be like, well, it's gonna take me this long, and you know, I'm gonna have to do this, and I'm gonna have to do that. And sometimes I'm like, okay, you know, it's this much or whatever. But it's just one of those things where, you know, you have to be able to like basically like accommodate like for what's going on, you know, during that time, and you know, things like that. But I mean, it does happen, you know. It's like, I feel like with the pricing, we've had like some issues, and as we're you know, going through like things and like specific kind of marketing that we've gotten and all that kind of stuff, I feel like, you know, it makes sense. But for us to basically every single year to be able to go up like a small percentage, I'm not saying like all of a sudden now like hems are going to be like a drastic amount, you know. It's like something where it's like maybe you won't see it in the tailoring, but you'll see it in other things, you know. There has to be like some kind of like supplement to like that, you know.
Like, but we go back to there's gonna be some thought.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's like I am I do like to work with people like a lot, and I like having like challenges and stuff like that. And I've done a lot of things where I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm willing to do that, and I'm not gonna get paid for it, but because it's something that I truly believe in.
And it's increasing your skill,
and it's increasing my skill, and it's like, and it makes me feel fucking good.
Yeah, it's free
so
education.
it's like I'm willing to do it, and I'm not gonna get paid for it, and that's fine, But it's like, I feel like what makes it very difficult is like maybe like someone that is difficult to work with, and I haven't had to have dealt with that, but I do have a lot of friends that have. So
is that quote unquote friends again?
That's my friends.
Yeah, friends.
Asking for a friend. I'm asking for a friend. But we did get a lot of like questions from our Instagram like thing that we did, where we did the ask me a question and we'll answer it on our podcast. And like I've said before, that it's like, I'm very like, I can't like type in like, you're great at that, like you're great at writing and like making it sound like,
thank you, Claudia,
because a lot of the times I'm like, babe, help me write this out so I don't sound like an asshole.
Or
Mainly
make sure
I'm like, because the way that I read it, I'm like, oh crap, like that makes me sound like I'm a dick. So it's like that's why you're a huge part of this business, because it's like you do all that kind of stuff that I can't. I
lighten up the edges a little bit.
Yes.
For Claudia, because
you round me out.
Yeah, she's a little rough around the edges, so I kind of like I sand out her edges.
Yeah.
And
well, it's like,
and then it's smooth.
Yeah.
It's smooth operator from there.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like that in real life though.
Real life, whatever. What's the difference?
But so we did get a lot of questions. Do you want to ask me
Let's
those?
ask a couple.
Okay.
I'm actually,
All right.
the funny thing is, I'm looking at the audio recorder and it's screaming low battery at me. So I don't know how long before it shuts off, but at least let's get in a couple of questions.
All right, fine.
Okay, so the first question was, it's, will you join Project Runway? That's funny.
All right, so I mean, I don't know. I've thought about it a few times, and it wasn't one of those things where I'm like, before I die, I want to do that. But I thought about it a few times, and I think I would do great, because it's like I didn't get formal education right with what I do, but it's like I feel like sometimes having formal education kind of like it gives you too many rules, and it's like I don't have any of those rules. So it's like, for me, I'm like, all right, let's look at your shape and let's try to dress it. And so since I went to school for upholstery is basically like furniture and like, redoing furniture and stuff like that. And so I really felt like getting like that getting that angle and being able to like recover a furniture piece that's also 3-dimensional, it really kind of like opened up my eyes into like being like, well, you're also a furniture piece, but you move.
Interesting.
But you move.
Wow.
And
Trippy.
So it's kind of, I thought about it. I don't know, sometimes I'm like, yeah,
It'd be a great life experience. I mean, no matter what, things like that, no matter what the outcome, anything like that, it's like you have one life, and like that's a pretty cool like 2, 3, 4 months to spend.
Yeah.
Your time.
Maybe that's like what I should do next. I don't know. I need to step it up, but yeah, I mean, I think I would do great. Like, I'm not doubting my skills, like, because there is a lot of times where I'm like, oh fuck, oh my god. But yeah,
Rapid fire. Next question: are you smashing your goals?
You know what? I definitely am smashing my goals. I feel like I've accomplished so many different things, like within like a really small amount of time. And sometimes it's like not even goals that I set for myself, but sometimes you could see like true potential in me, and you're like, what about this? And I'm like, and I know most of the time like I fight you on it, but then I'm like, all right, let me like really think about it instead of just being so defensive. And then I'm like, all right, yeah. But most of the time I am smashing my goals. And when I'm not, then I always make sure that that I do it within like a specific time frame that like isn't like, instead of like, I should have finished this by Friday, but instead like it was like, Friday morning, Friday night, or whatever. Just stuff like that. But yeah, usually I stick to what I need to do.
Definitely, but there's still a lot more goals because time management, I'm just throwing this out there. I know we got to move to the next question, but waking up on time, waking up early, fitting stuff in the morning.
Yes.
All that stuff you got to do. So we've got another one. If you had to pick a profession opposite of being a seamstress, what would it have been?
I think I would have been like a forensic, like something in forensics. Like I just love, like all that kind of stuff, you know, like I love watching like true crime stuff, and I just think that that's like the most interesting thing. And I love like
Corpses.
old shit. I love old shit. Like I love reading, like they found this fucking Egyptian tomb, and oh my god, I love that kind of stuff. And so for me, like anything anthropology and like detective work, I think I'm pretty good at.
Oh, so like digging up bones?
Yeah, like no, I'm not digging up bones, but just kind of like, I don't know, like maybe just doing the fun part about that one. Not digging up the bones. I would just be like, like discovering it. Like, oh, I discovered, you know, stuff
and
like
having
that.
to find out whose bones it was and all.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I love that.
Sleuthing.
Oh my god, I love that.
Awesome. So Claudia wanted to be a forensic.
Well, I don't know
detective.
what the fuck. Yeah.
All right, good to know. So, quickly, oh my god. So this one says, did you ever or have you ever sewn naked?
Yes.
Wow, what's the story?
Well,
behind
sometimes
that?
you gotta, like, you know, you're like, oh man, my pants ripped, and you know you felt the breeze, and then you're like, I gotta take off my pants, you know.
I
So
see how that can happen. Then you stitch it up real quick and put the pants back on.
yeah, then you're just kind of like, okay. And sometimes you know, I remember when I lived on in my apartment, remember 4th Street, and I you know, I would work on stuff, and then I would like the annoying part is like you're working on something, and then you're like, okay, now try it on. Okay, now take it off. And then I would just be like, fuck it, I'm gonna sew topless and get this shit done. Like,
Oh my goodness.
whoever, like I would just close the blinds, and I would just be like, this is my house. I pay for that shit. So
Yeah, right? Oh my god.
so I was just like, I'm gonna do it naked.
Especially on a
But-
summer night, sounds great.
And you know, like a lot of people, they like to like sew like bare feet and stuff like that. So I mean,
Okay, so Claudia,
if you don't mind the titties out.
Claudia has sewn naked.
Yeah, but not
topless
like
and
not in the
bottomless.
studio like now.
Oh, so-
like
okay, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, during hours. Don't
Don't
expect
try
to
to
like
sneak a peek. Don't try to sneak a
don't
peek.
expect to. There is a picture that's going around though of me and the sewing
Oh
machine.
my god. Really?
Topless.
Oh god.
Yeah. But yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
All right, anyway, so is pink your favorite color?
No. Pink is not my favorite color.
So how did it get associated with?
It was just like Facebook basically cornered us into like now pink is like our color for like the business. Pink is not my favorite color. I do not have a favorite color.
But you were the one who wanted to paint the color pink when we moved to the alley.
Yeah.
You had the choice to paint the exterior, and you chose like some dragon fruit pink,
Yeah.
right? So that was your ultimate choice. You can't say Facebook or anything like that.
No.
Because you chose that color.
I did. And I wanted a color that was going to capture my personality. And I wanted it to be bright, and I wanted it to be fun. And I just love like being able to like see a color, and psychologically colors like create our mood.
So even if it's not your favorite color, it's the color that best describes you.
I would say, I mean, I think it's like bubbly and fun, and
Because it's the one color
you know,
you chose.
I guess so. But it's not. I can't say that it's my favorite color. But yeah,
But your floors are pink.
yeah,
Everything's pink, which is, it's not bad. Like you said, it describes you. And psychologically, you know, looking at pink, it's fun.
yeah.
you
It's
know?
cool. It's cool.
I wish you were more fun, but no. Okay. Anyway, so what do you do? This is the last one. If your kid interrupts you or acts up when you're with a customer.
So
Oh,
we used
man,
to
this is-
get this a lot, like in like our Bankers Hill like location and stuff like that, because she was there all the time, you know, and so she was younger, and she's always growing up in the shop. So for me, I've, you know, like she's been raised in like a business, so it's like she needs to understand that there's certain etiquette, certain things you say, certain things that you don't say, you know, things like that. And for a child, you know, it's like it's basically free range. They don't understand that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember one time she acted up, and I was just kind of like, no. So I had 3 clients in the studio. One of
Yeah.
them was doing a fitting. The other one was like just acting crazy with her. which was really difficult because it's like I don't like to discipline other people's kids. Like I won't, that's not my job. And so I had a client and I was like pinning them and all that kind of stuff, and then so she was acting all crazy, and I was like, can you give me 1 second? And the client was like, sure. And I was like, hey, Ice, come over here for a second. And she's like, okay. And I took her to the bathroom and I looked at her like dead on in the face, and I fucking raised my eyebrows so fucking high.
Oh my God.
And you know that's fucking scary as hell.
You're raising them high now, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, do not fucking embarrass me in front of people. And she was just kind of so scared. And I was like, you go out there and you sit down and you act like a good girl for like the time that we have people in here. And she was like, oh shit. She was so fucking scared. She was like, all right. And you know, it's like, it's hard because it's like, you don't want to be like a shitty parent, but I also don't want to be the parent that doesn't discipline their child.
Exactly, because kids will be kids.
Oh,
This
yeah.
was probably 6 or 5 at the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, no matter what the age, they have to learn store etiquette.
Oh, yeah. And so she's always been really, really good with that kind of stuff, you know. And I told her, you know, after clients left and everything, I was like, hey, you don't do that kind of stuff, and this is why. And it's like so embarrassing because it's like, what the fuck, you're gonna act up and in here, and you're gonna disrespect me like that. And it's like, and I've always been super, super open to like talking about anything with her, where it was just, I felt like, you know, we both were like, we left that day like kind of just being like, we both got scolded by each other, you know. And it's difficult because it's like, you don't want to like start like parenting by being like, you know, where you're like, you allow them to do anything, and it's like, no, I'm the parent and I say what goes.
Exactly.
That's my thing.
Because
you know?
Kids, I mean, they're very instinctual.
Yeah,
They
it's like
sense
just
weakness. They smell fear.
Yeah.
And they will exploit it.
Oh, they exploit. She definitely exploits you.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah, she does.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah, she does.
Exactly. That's
Tell them the
totally
story
a matter
about the
of
oranges
perspective.
and the.
No, just because me and her sometimes negotiate about some small things. I'm teaching her how to,
Nope.
for lack of a better word, how to make a deal. But,
No.
you know, we talk a little bit about that, and we have fun with it, and she loves her papa.
Yeah.
But, you know, the funny thing is, our recorder is about to go kaput, so let's just say good night for the night. And I think we speak of the Diabla, and the Diabla just appeared. Here you go. Ice, you want to say, here, come to the mic.
Hi, and when my mom spanked me, that was like probably a million years ago.
It was a million years
What was it?
ago.
Do you remember that day?
Yes.
So what happened?
Exactly.
Was it traumatizing?
Yep.
But you know what? Did she ever do it again? No. So sometimes you do have to, you know, pull down their pants and spank them. But you know what? I don't ever have to do that like often. So I'm very grateful for that. So yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you later, alligator.
All right. So the theme of the story. So yeah, we're gonna try to be doing this every other Monday. We'll maybe have an interview next week with a local artist. Stay tuned. Thank you so much. It was great. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye.